What's up? What's up? Good morning, man. 10:06 a.m. West Coast time. It is, man, it's like late in the evening back there, man. I get it. Hold on one second. Let me make some adjustments to the microphone. Hold on. Make sure the mic is working. Okay. Shout out to everybody that's rocking. The mic is working. Yeah. Well, shout out to Go Go Gadget. He's not going outside. I mean, morally, he's going outside, but when you can replace morals with money, then there's a reward for it. If you get what I'm saying. See, the people that rock with him, they expect this from him. It's not gonna hurt his brand, right? Now, somebody like Tariq Nasheed or somebody like me or and a few others, it like talking like this would damage my brand, my name and reputation, right? But when you're somebody like Tampon, you expect him to put on his tap shoes. You expect him to put on a red wig and a red painted nose with two left shoes, tap dancing for the MAGA community, for conservatives. So coming from Anton, people expect that, so it's not going to hurt his brand. But shout out to Go Go Gadget. I mean, morally, he is going outside, but when you replace morals with money, then that's the activity. That's the unfortunate reality when it comes to people like Tampon. And let me say this: Tampon gets so offended when people calls him the COON word, right? But if the shoe fits, you must wear it. If you can call people broke, if you can call people names, then you should be able to take criticism on your end, especially when your actions fit that word, the COON word. It'd be one thing if your actions didn't align with that, but your actions align with that word. So to get mad about it and to get upset about it, that's how we know it's true. Well, your actions tells us it's true. But when you get upset about it, that lets us know that you know it's true. You know it's true. Tampon wants to shame black people. He wants to shame you into not using the COON word. So he tries his best to make black people look ignorant, black people who call other black people that word. So he tries his best to make you look ignorant just for calling that out, but it's not going to work. Like I said, homie, if the shoe fits, you must wear it. Now, shout out to Go Go Gadget, man. I appreciate you for the love and support, my brother, like always. Now, I've been talking about this for years. A lot of these guys barely started calling out the Latino community for their anti-black racism. Check my resume. I've been talking about this for years. I don't expect somebody from Detroit to really understand the anti-black racism that comes from the Latino community. I don't expect for somebody that's from Detroit to understand that. I don't expect somebody that's from St. Louis to understand that, right? You get what I'm saying? But when you're from a place like California, Los Angeles to be exact, you witnessed that firsthand. You grew up seeing that. So this is common information for me because I've seen it. I've experienced it dealing with Latinos, mainly Mexicans, but this goes for Latinos in general. You just see it more in Mexicans because Mexicans are the biggest Latino group here in the United States of America. They're the biggest, they're the biggest Latin group. Mexicans have the most political power out of all Latinos. Why? Because Mexicans have the most numbers. They have the biggest population out of all Latino groups. So you got, I mean, it's a good thing, man. You got other people calling it out, this and that. But I've been talking about this, homie. Check my resume. I got videos right now from Red Supreme TV1 from 4 years ago that I can upload videos from 4 years ago calling out the anti-black racism that comes from the Latin community. So I've been doing this. This is nothing new for me. I'm one of the pioneers when it comes to calling out Mexicans and Latinos for their anti-black racism. I'm one of the guys who pioneered that lane. If you go back 2 years ago, you listen, go back. Let's go back to 2022, 2023. 90% of these guys now that's talking about racism from the Latino community, they wasn't talking about it. People like me and Tariq Nasheed made it a hot topic. Now everybody wants to jump on it and give their take. But I've been talking about this for years, homeboy. This is nothing new. And if you rocking with Red Supreme, you're gonna say, yeah, Red been talking about this for years. You know, because I understood this was very important, and I understand how that can affect the black community, because a lot of black people were still confused about this so-called minority coalition that never existed in the first place. You know what I mean? So I was trying to wake black people up back in 2022, back in 2023, telling them how most of these people think and how they vote and how you're treated in their communities. Oh, I've been talking about this for a very long time. This is nothing new. I've been spreading the word for years. So if you want somebody that's authentic and really in it, tap in with King Supreme and get a dose of this real game. I'm telling you. I appreciate everybody for tapping in. Good morning. Let's get it. Let's dive into the content. Now, Tampon said a few things that made sense, but he also said a lot of nonsense. And we're going to break down everything from every angle. People like Tampon will tell you racism doesn't exist. Or he'll try to minimize it and make it seem like it has no effect at all on your personal lives because you've never experienced racism as somebody that's born in the 80s, the 90s, or maybe even the 70s. I've seen this idiot try to convince people, you ain't never dealt with racism. You can't tell people what they dealt with, especially somebody coming from Los Angeles, California. California is one of the most racist states in the country. You might not know it just based on how they promote Hollywood, the beaches, the sunshine, the palm trees, the beautiful landscape. You might not realize that if you're not from Los Angeles, but there's a lot of racism in Los Angeles. There's a whole lot of anti-black racism going on in the state of California. But Tampon will tell you, you ain't never experienced racism. I don't know what black folk complaining about. Tampon, black people in the South are still getting hung in sundown towns. Let me repeat that for the people who are too slow. Black people are still getting hung in sundown towns. The thing is, they don't report it as much as they should. But if you study, you will find the same information. Black people are still getting lynched in certain areas in the South, especially in rural areas, redneck sundown towns. But let Tampon tell it, oh man, you guys don't experience racism. You don't experience that. You guys don't experience that. In California, Mexicans have firebombed houses of black civilians just for living in the predominant Latino community. I've showed you the video. I gave several examples to prove what I've been talking about. The Latin community, they're very, and now don't get it twisted. We all know some cool Latino people. I'm not saying all Latino people are racist, but what I'm saying is in the Latino culture, there's a lot of anti-black racism within those cultures, within the Latin culture. Let me put it like that. I'm not the type of person that I'm not the type of person that's going to ignore what I see. I'm not the type of person that's going to ignore what I've experienced. Yes, I've experienced some racism from white people. Yes, I've experienced a lot of racism from Latinos, Hispanics. True story. Now let's get back. Let's get into the content.
Trending about Jasmine Crockett.
Make sure that you guys get the lights up. King Supreme is one of the pioneers. I'm one of the pioneers in the game when it comes to calling out anti-Black racism in the Latino community. A lot of these guys y'all see nowadays, they barely started talking about that within the last year. Maybe within the last year, you've seen some of these other Black people talk about it, but they really don't know what they're talking about because they never experienced it. They watch people like me. They listen to me break it down. Then they go to their platforms and and try to give their take on it. But if you want the truth from somebody who's experienced it, I'm not talking about something that I read on the internet, that I got on Google. I'm talking about things that I've experienced, things that I've witnessed. I'm giving you firsthand information. I don't need a YouTube video to prove what I know about this anti-Black racism that comes from that community. Now, I'll use a YouTube video to give you an example, but I've experienced this firsthand. I witnessed it firsthand. Most of these guys are just typing on the internet and reacting to what they found on the internet. They don't have the experience to really speak on this like I do. Anyway, let's get back to the show. Bless the like button. It ain't nothing. Subscribe to the channel.
And JEMELE Hill brought up something about Latino voters. They were holding Latino voters. There's a lot of people trying to hold Latino voters accountable for not voting for Jasmine Hill, because what was reported on CNN and multiple other platforms was Latino voters was the ones that got her the hell up out of there. And so we good on you. We conservative. We not rocking with you. All of that. So I wanted to try to source through and hear some of what JEMELE Hill had to say, so I can understand whether it's accurate assessment or not. She's under fire for her comments, and this is what she said on her platform. Again, make sure you guys hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel.
Oh, Angry Man, I'm gonna cook him. Oh, he made a video saying that we're anti-Latino. Oh, yeah, man. This is what I'm saying, man. For the Black people that listen to that bozo, shame on you guys. Send me the video right now. Send me that video to send that video to my Gmail. I'm gonna cook this fool. I said this yesterday and I'm gonna say it again today. A lot of our FBA people still support these bozos. It's profitable to be a Sambo because you get white people that support you and you still get Black people to support you. Now, it's our fault as foundational Black Americans that a lot of our people still support this Samboism. The Black community ain't never been anti-Latino. We've always welcomed other races in our communities, patronize their businesses, spend money with them. But if you try to move your Black ass in their community and start a business, you're not going to get no love. They don't even want you in their communities like that. So if Angry Man really said that, I'm going to give him a reality check because he's a bozo. We've always been welcoming to other groups, and I think in reality, that's a major problem, being too welcoming to groups who really don't like us, but they'll use us to eat off of our plate. The Civil Rights Movement, the 14th Amendment, things of that nature. They'll rock with Black people when it's beneficial for them. But when it's time to get tangibles, when it's time to bring tangibles to their community, they're not concerned at all with us. I showed you guys a video of the LULAC organization, how the president of the LULAC organization says that the Mexicans belong to the Caucasian race. We want nothing to do with Negroes. They said this back in the 1950s, back in the 1940s. These were your Latino civil rights leaders, the LULAC organization. Look it up. Look it up. Let's get to the content, though.
And then turn on your notifications. This is JEMELE Hill, y'all.
There are mistakes to be made, but let's not act like racism and misogyny ain't in the room, too.
I'm already done. Y'all want to go ahead and wrap this up?
Oh, I found it. I'm a cook Angry Man. I found it. Thanks for showing me the video. Matter of fact, I should change the title. Angry Man and it. Matter of fact, I'm going to separate it. I'm going to cook Angry Man by itself.
Oh, here we go with the racism and the misogyny talk and all of this bullshit. Come on, man. I don't want to hear that shit. When y'all gonna stop running in the Victim Olympics, bro? Stop.
When you gonna start running the Victim Olympics? I'm gonna sue Corey. He made fun of my daughter. You was just running the Victimhood Olympics, boy.
Stop.
Now listen, I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican. So I got smoke for JEMELE because just like I got smoke for this fool. He's a hardcore Republican, right-wing conservative, and JEMELE, well, she's a Democrat. She's a Democrat. She's a liberal. I got issues with both of these people.
All right, y'all. Let's get back to. I want to let her talk for a little bit. I was, it's just some stuff. I just be like, what? All right.
Now, as we break down about what was the reason Jasmine Crockett lost, already across social media, even though we don't have any exit numbers, we don't know this, but the war is on in terms of Black people, because that was really Jasmine Crockett's core base in Texas. Her Black support it wasn't even close with Tallarico. It's not even worth mentioning because Jasmine has so much of it. And so,
is this how she talks on her podcast? Isn't JEMELE Hill, respectfully, and I'm not criticizing her, I'm just trying to understand because I don't watch her platform that often. I only seen a couple different things that she spoke about that I reacted to previously, and I don't even remember what those are.
And listen, I'm not mad at the Latino community for not voting for Jasmine Crockett. I could care less. But I do know the reason that they didn't vote for her, right? Now, if she was a white woman, the Latinos would have voted for her. She would have got more votes as a white woman, right? Because Latinos have been trained to not vote for Black people, right? There's a certain thing. Latinos will vote against their best interest to not vote for a Black person. They will. Kamala Harris is not really Black, but they made her Black in the media. So based on that fact, that's one of the main contributing factors for why the Latino community didn't vote for her. Now, some bozo will say, well, they're conservative. Listen, let me tell you something. Kamala Harris would have did more for Latinos than Donald Trump. So you would say, well, damn, but the Latinos was not going to vote for a Black woman. Listen, Kamala Harris would have did way more for Latinos than Donald Trump. And the Latinos voted against their best interest, right? Because the Latinos didn't want to vote for no damn Black person. Not no Black man, not no Black woman. Well, they voted for Barack Obama. That was different because that whole situation was different. We can't compare that, but we'll get into that in a minute. If I was a Latino, I would have voted for Kamala Harris. She would have kept the borders open and she would have made it easier for Latinos to come to this country and to gain citizenship. But Latinos are so against voting Black that they'll vote against their best interests. That's how deep their anti-Black racism runs. That's how deep it runs in their community. I'll vote against my best interest before I vote for a Black person. Now, growing up in Los Angeles, you understand that. I don't expect somebody that's from Detroit to understand that. But at the same time, you got eyes, homeboy. You got ears. Keep your ears glued to the streets. You should be smart enough to know. You're in your 40s. Even though you may have never experienced this in Detroit, you should be smart enough to know that in cities, where there's large Latino populations, you also see a lot of anti-Blackness coming from the Latino communities. You see it in Texas. You see it in California. You see it in Florida, South Florida with the Cubans. You ain't got to live in South Florida to understand how racist and a lot of those Cubans are. You ain't got to be from California to see that a lot of Mexicans in Southern California don't really like Black people. You don't have to live in Texas to know that. So at some point, you got to wake up and smell what's going on. Check game. I don't live in Minnesota, but I'm smart enough to know that they got a problem with Somalians out there. I don't have to live there to know that. Now, somebody who lives there understand it more than I do, but I got enough understanding just by looking from a distance to see what's going on, to see that they have a large Somalian population over there. I don't have to live there to know. That's public information at this point.
And that is no shade or no diss to her whatsoever. Shout out to Jemele Hill. I hope you do well on your show and your channel.
And yeah, and Detroit, listen, homie, Detroit is right down the street from Chicago. There's a lot of racist Mexicans in Chicago, like Little Village and a lot of areas. They don't like black folks. The Mexicans in Chicago don't like black people like that either. I did a live stream about a black kid getting jumped, beat up, jaw broken, hospitalized in Chicago. He was in a Mexican community in Chicago, and the Mexicans jumped him and robbed him and beat him real bad, all because they didn't want him in this community. I did another story about a black girl in Chicago on Mexican Independence Day, walking her dog. The girl had to be about 12 years old. She got jumped and beat up by two grown Mexican ladies. Swole her eye up, beat her up real bad. This happened in Chicago, Mexican Independence Day, a few years ago. Hit the like button and support the show.
Channel on Spolitics. Interesting name. Is this the way that she communicates? I thought that she was like a former reporter, you know, all of that type of stuff. Oh, I remember when I reacted to her. I reacted to her going back and forth with Megyn Kelly. When she was going back and forth with Megyn Kelly, I remember that. Yep, I remember it.
Very clear situation that was going to develop when you looked at
rolling out of bed to do a podcast. You need to stop.
James Talarico's Latino and Hispanic support. He had a lot of it. He had a lot more than Jasmine Crockett had. And so because of that, people are now blaming Latinos, and by people, again, it's the Black Latino Civil War that's happening.
And let me say it again. I am not mad at Latinos for not voting for Jasmine Crockett. I could care less. I'm pointing out the obvious, though.
In the social media streets. And so
I appreciate you, Tori.
There is a conversation.
Hold on. Somebody in the comment, I'm going to let it go. He said, California racism don't compare to the South. Are you serious? All right, let me show you something, fool. Do you know the majority of the hate crimes committed in California comes from Latinos, not white people? Mexicans in California are the Latinos of the South. I did stories of black people homes getting firebombed by racist Mexican gangs. This is what happens when black people move in predominant Mexican communities. They're not firebombing black people houses in black communities. They were doing this in predominant Mexican communities where you got like maybe 5 black people living in a predominant Mexican area. Do you know how many gang wars took place over racism? You listen, you ain't from California, so you wouldn't know. See, my family is from the South, so I go there all the time. See, I know what it's like in the South because my whole family migrated from the South and came to California. Well, not my whole family. Some of us came to California. A lot of us stayed in Alabama, Georgia. But a lot of us have moved to California. I seen how racism works in the South. I know how it works in California. I'm speaking from experience. You're just talking.
To be had about whether or not that's real. I think there is some realness to it. And a lot of people thought that when Jasmine Crockett discussed Latinos who voted for Trump, that she gave an answer that was insulting to Latinos. So this is from a December 2024 politics, or a December 2024 Vanity Fair profile, in which Jasmine Crockett was asked about Latino Trump supporters. And this is what she said. Let me find the exact quote. All right,
I get it. We know what she said.
Come out of the. She
I
said
want to
they
get to her
having
take.
this, and it was millions of them who did, especially in the last election, particularly Latino men, where I believe it was somewhere between 55 and 60% of Latino men voted for Trump. And she was explaining, sort of based off her conversations with the Latino and Hispanic community, what she heard. And she was also asked about this when she was on with Jake Tapper, and here's what she said.
Last year, around 1 million Latino voters in Texas were voting for Trump. Do they all have slave mentality?
No, and that's not what that said. They were coming and putting them who was left.
Clear, and if you read the Vanity Fair piece, you will know this. She wasn't talking about all Latinos. She was specifically talking about Latinos who vote for Trump. Given what he has said about them and given
What? Wait. You can't.
Yeah. To all my people in the South, the Latino population is getting real big. And you're gonna see some of the same things over there. You're not gonna notice it until their population gets bigger. Now, when their population gets bigger, that's when you're gonna see them feeling like they're gonna start getting bold. Then they're gonna feel like we have enough numbers to combat black people. So people used to say, "Oh, really? They nice down." Yeah, because they ain't got enough numbers to do any of that stuff down there. Now, once they get their numbers up, you're gonna see a whole nother side of these people. I promise you that. Once you listen, you're gonna see gangs. Once they grow in numbers, and you start seeing a lot of Hispanic gangs in the South, that's when you're gonna start hearing about a lot of black and brown issues in the deep South. I'm talking about Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina. Once their numbers grow, you're gonna see the problems they bring. Right now, they're not big enough to show their ass. Give them a few more years. Let's continue.
Oh, she wasn't talking about all Latinos. She's only talking about specifically Latinos that voted for Trump. Oh, so they're not worthy of your respect.
about Latinos who vote for Trump. Given what he has said about them and given
What? Wait. You can't say, oh, she wasn't talking about all Latinos. She's only talking about specifically Latinos that voted for Trump. Oh, so they're not worthy of your respect. They shouldn't be looked at with the same level of respect as voters that voted for Democrats or voted against Trump, that voted for Kamala Harris, so on and so forth. So if you
once they get enough numbers, they will show their true colors. Shout out to Ronald Thompson. Ronald Thompson, I appreciate you for that. Not only did it rhyme, it was real, it was accurate. Once the Latinos get enough numbers, they'll show their true colors. I promise you.
If you voted for Trump, then you're an idiot, and you shouldn't be looked at with the same regard as a Latino person that may have voted Democrat. This is dumb.
given what his policies are. Now, I'm out here in Los Angeles, where obviously there's a heavy Latino population. One, there is a lot of diversity within the Latino community as it relates to voting, much like there is with Black people or any other racial ethnic group. You can't cast a wide net over everybody and say they should all believe this. But that being said, as anyone knows, there's a very different way which Cubans vote, which Venezuelans vote, which Mexicans vote, and on so down the line. And you can't all assume that the same issues are important to all of them, because there are distinct markers in their community, just as it is in every community. The Cubans, as we know, that are in Miami, the I will vote for Donald Trumps, they are very soft targets for misinformation. A lot of Latino and Hispanic communities are, to be frank, and especially if you're from Cuba. Cubans hear socialism, communism, and as long as the Republicans use those words to describe democratic policies, they will vote Republican every time, even if they're voting for themselves to be put out of America. They will do it every time.
Let me.
She's right about that. They will vote to get themselves put out of America. You just seen it in the Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump election. Kamala Harris would have kept the borders open and done more for the Latino community. But one thing the Latinos is not going to do, they're not going to vote for a black person. So Latinos will vote against their best interests so that they ain't got to vote for a black person. The media made Kamala Harris a black woman, even though we know she's not a black woman, but the Mexican community perceived her as a black woman, so they said, no, we're not going to vote for that. We're going to vote for Donald Trump. I will vote for Donald Trump. I will vote for Donald Trump. For Donald Trump. So they voted for Donald Trump. And that was against their best interest. So you might not like JEMELE Hill, but she was 100% correct. Latinos will vote to kick themselves out of this country, just so that they ain't got to vote for a black person. This past election was a prime example. Latinos voted for mass deportation, and once they started getting deported, now you see them on TV crying about getting deported, but then you say, well, hold on, you guys voted for this. How you gonna cry about the fact that your people getting deported? You in the streets marching about it, protesting, but the majority of you guys voted for mass deportation. You voted for Donald Trump, the majority of you. How you gonna vote for mass deportation, but then get mad and protest and start crying when Donald Trump begins to deport your people? This is what you voted for. Now you're upset that he's doing it.
Answer Slimmy. Slimmy says y'all do the same thing about people that voted for Kamala. What's the difference? This is why I don't like discussing politics, because most people aren't objective. They ride for the party, not the people. And Slimmy is wrong on this one. And I'm going to explain to you why. We don't do that about people that vote for Kamala. We do that for people that can't substantiate their argument or provide a reason outside of identity politics or just being black for why they vote for Kamala. The problem isn't that you vote differently. The problem isn't that you are a Democrat, because one of my favorite people, honestly, in politics today, and he's not even a Democrat, he's not even a Republican, is John Fetterman. John Fetterman is actually, because different people vote for different reasons, but when you can't actually provide a reason because you're an uninformed voter, that's when we start to hold you accountable. If I ask you, okay, well, what is it about her and what policy do you care about that actually is going to be meaningful? And you say, well, I only like her because she's a black woman and I only vote black, then of course I'm going to have that same accountability for you.
Well, let me tell you something, Anton. Yes, black people do vote identity politics, but there's a reason for it, right? We don't have a lot of black faces in office, so we tend to vote for the person that looks like us, when in reality, some of these people do nothing for us. So I understand, but at the same time, white people vote for identity politics. Every president in this country has been a white man except for one. And that is, that's that will be, you dig what I'm saying? Excuse me, Barack Obama. So if anybody votes for identity politics, that's the white community. White people are going to vote for identity politics 100%. 99.9% of all presidents, 99.9% of all presidents in this country has been white men. Why? Because white people are the majority, and guess what? They're going to vote for their people. So the main people who engage in identity politics are Caucasians, white individuals, white people in general. If you keep black people out of office for centuries, right? Of course, when you see a black face, you're going to vote for him because you're so used to seeing white faces. So I don't even get mad at black people for voting for Barack Obama, because guess what? White folks have voted for white presidents 99.9% of the time. But when we decide to vote for somebody that's black, it's a major problem when white people are the main ones who engage in what? Identity politics. straight up and down.
And what policy do you care about that actually is going to be meaningful? And you say, well, I only like her because she's a black woman and I only vote black. Then of course I'm going to have that same accountability for you. Absolutely. When Fetterman is working across the aisle and he's a fairly moderate Democrat, I give John Fetterman props all the time. All the time. He said, y'all literally call people that voted for Kamala the 97% or whatever. Nope, it's the 92%.
I hope you're not talking. I don't know what you mean by showing those stats to prove it, but when it comes to 99.9% of all presidents being white men, we don't need stats for that. That's observable reality. You can look at that with your eyes. Look at all American presidents. All of them were white men except for Barack Obama. So the main people who engage in identity politics will be the white community. They made sure that every president was a white man except for one time. Well, maybe twice. But 99.9% of the time, they're going to put a white man in office. That is what you call identity politics. But of course, Tampon is not going to hold the white community accountable for identity politics. He only wants to hold the black community accountable, even though we only had one president. And he was a tether, as people would like to say. Anyway.
92% of black women voted for Kamala.
All right, let's get to the stats.
Vote black. The problem isn't that you are a Democrat, because one of my favorite people, honestly, in politics today, and he's not even a Democrat, he's not even a Republican, is John Fetterman. John Fetterman is actually, because different people vote for different reasons, but when you can't actually provide a reason because you're an uninformed voter, that's when we start to hold you accountable. If I ask you, okay, well, what is it about her and what policy do you care about that actually is going to be meaningful? And you say, well, I only like her because she's a black woman and I only vote black. Then of course I'm going to have that same accountability for you. Absolutely. When Fetterman is working across the aisle and he's a fairly moderate Democrat, I give John Fetterman props all the time. All the time. He said, y'all literally call people that voted for Kamala the 97% or whatever. Nope, it's the 92%. 92% of black women voted for Kamala, 78% of black men. The 92% identify.
92% of black women who voted. Now, we can't say that 92% of all black women voted for Kamala Harris, but what we can say, 92% of black women who did vote voted for Kamala Harris. I believe it was like 70-something% of black men who voted for Kamala Harris as well, which was crazy. But at least there was a decline, because most of the time it would have been 90-something% of black men voting the same way that black women voted.
When Fetterman is working across the aisle and he's a fairly moderate Democrat, I give John Fetterman props all the time. All the time. He said, y'all literally call people that voted for Kamala the 97% or whatever. Nope, it's the 92%. 92% of black women voted for Kamala, 78% of black men. The 92% identifies a segment of the population, just so happen to be black women, that voted for Kamala Harris. That's what the 92% is. The 92% is the black women, the ones that rally behind her because they were AKAs or they were sorority members or all of that type of stuff. That is the 92%. The 78% of black men that voted for Kamala Harris only because she's black. You're right, Sierra. They identify themselves as the 92%. They identify themselves as the 78%. How is that proving your point? That makes no sense. The point that I'm making is that if somebody can't provide policy, if you say to yourself, If you say to me, I'll give you an example. If you say to me, Anton, the reason that I voted for this person is because I like the policy that they put together. I'm just making it up out of thin air. I like the policy that they're putting together that actually allows for me to be able to have healthcare coverage and keep me on benefits or keep my child on benefits up to this certain amount of time, up until a certain age, because we have a pre-existing condition. And I think that that actually works best for my family. I can't argue with that. You know why I can't argue with that? Because you're making an informed decision. Now, I may disagree with you about some of the stuff that you may say. I may have a difference of perspective because I may say that there's some things that you may not be informed about. So let me provide you with some additional information. But if you are making a sound decision because you're an informed voter, then that's one thing. But if you're only, and again, we know for a fact that most Black people, I did it based off of identity politics back in the day because that's what I was taught to do. We vote for this person or we vote for this party because we Black. When I became older, I became more informed and I started making decisions that was in the best interest of my family and based off of my values. But when you only vote for somebody based off of identity politics, or let me make the other argument for you because
Okay, white people have voted for other white men based on what? Identity politics. White people are the main ones who engage in that identity politics, but you have nothing to say. You have nothing to say about them. Nothing. Now, I understand we shouldn't vote for somebody just because they're Black, because a lot of them ain't going to do nothing for us. I get it. I understand. I don't vote with identity politics, but I understand why Black people do it because white people have been doing it. White people have voted for white men and white men only. We've only had one Black president. Every other president has been what? A white man. What is that? Identity politics. White people have fought hard to keep white men in office, to keep the white man as president. That's identity politics, you nimwit.
I've had a whole lot of conversations. We vote for this person, or we vote for this party because we Black. When I became older, I became more informed and I started making decisions.
He's not telling the truth. He's not telling the whole truth. White people vote for white people. White people have fought hard to keep white men in office, to keep a white man as president. That is identity politics. Nobody engages in that more than whites in America. What is that called? That is called systematic white supremacy. Let's keep white men in power and white men only. That is white supremacy 101. We're going to do everything in our power to keep the white man in that position. Identity politics 101 to the 10th power.
In the best interest of my family and based off of my values. But when you only vote for somebody based off of identity politics, or let me make the other argument for you because I've had a whole lot of conversations with a lot of people. When you only vote for somebody because you don't like Trump, that's not.
I don't want to hear nothing about no population. What I said is the majority of white people vote for identity politics to keep white men in office. If you can't admit that, then I'm not talking to you because at that particular time, at that point, you're not being honest with yourself. And if you're not being honest with yourself, there's no way you're going to be honest with us. We all know that white people vote for identity politics. This is why white men are still in a position of power. White people have fought hard to keep white men in those positions. Identity politics. But of course, Tampon ain't going to say nothing to the white community about their identity politics and why they always vote to keep a white man in power.
An informed voter. And you're wrong, Slimmy. You're wrong on this one. You're wrong.
And so that's something that it requires a level of sophistication to understand. And one of the main platforms for the disinformation is Univision. And many of the Spanish language newspapers, many of them are owned by conservative, right-leaning people. And so they constantly are a group that is filtered full of misinformation. But beyond the misinformation, and it's not like Black people don't have any experience with this as well, is that there's always a group of people. And the reason maybe why it's not as high in our community is because just by skin color alone, there's only, even if you the biggest of coons, there's only a certain amount of proximity to whiteness that you.
All right, I'm done.
See, anytime he hears the COON word, he gets mad. But if the shoe fits, you must wear it. What she said is true. A Black person, take a Sambo in a Black community. You're not going to get white proximity like that. I mean, you're still a Black man. They may accept you to a certain extent, but you're not going to get that white proximity that you're looking for, because at the end of the day, you are still a Black person. It is easier for Latinos to get white proximity than it is for a Black person, because some Latinos are white. Some of them could actually pass for white. So what she's saying is 100% correct. If you a Sambo, you as a Sambo fighting for white proximity, is going to be harder to achieve that compared to what? A Latino. So it don't matter how much Samboing you doing, how much tap dancing you're doing, you're not going to get the same white, you're not going to get the same white proximity that a Latino can get. Because like I said, some Latinos are actually white and some of them can pass for white. But your Black ass, nah, they'll use you for what they can use you for, but it's only so much they're gonna do for you. I don't care how much you tap dance for that community. It's gonna be a struggle for you to get white proximity, because you're still a Black person at the end of the day. They don't really like you, but they'll use you for what you could be used for.
Full of misinformation. But beyond the misinformation, and it's not like Black people don't have any experience with this as well, is that there's always a group of people. And the reason maybe why it's not as high in our community is because just by skin color alone, there's.
You notice, soon as she said the C word, the COON, he said, I'm done, because that affects him. He knows he's one of them. So anytime he hears that word, he gets offended. So you can call Black people ghetto and ignorant, but when somebody calls you a Sambo or the C word, oh man, I don't know why Black people keep using that word. Man, shut your dumb ass up. If the shoe fits, you must wear it.
Only, even if you the biggest of coons, there's only a certain amount of proximity to whiteness that you.
All right, I'm done.
Look at his reaction when she said the C word. Oh man, I'm done, man. I don't even want to hear that word.
With this as well, is that there's always a group of people. And the reason maybe why it's not as high in our community is because just by skin color alone, there's only, even if you the biggest of coons, there's only a certain amount of proximity to whiteness that you.
All right, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done, bro. This is why our platform is not growing. This is why she's not. And of course, I already know that the narrative is going to be, well, I don't need to grow anymore. I'm cool with it. That's cool. I feel you. I feel you.
Limited ain't got nothing to do with money. We're talking about character. We're not talking about money. See, Tampon wants to make everything. This is why her platform. Listen, bro. I know a lot of people with good content and their platform ain't growing because they're not feeding the algorithm what the algorithm wants you to feed it. So don't make it seem like just because somebody's not in the algorithm that they're not producing good content. I know a lot of good content creators, but the algorithm just don't like them for whatever reason. But it doesn't mean that their content sucks because the algorithm don't promote them the way that it should. That's where your platform ain't growing. This ain't got nothing to do with money. This ain't got nothing to do with a platform growing. We're talking about character. We're talking about anti-Black racism. We're talking about Sambos and Latinos. Let's stick to that. We'll get into the money conversation later.
Limited perspective. And usually when somebody thinks differently from them, they're by default, you're a coon because of your proximity to whiteness is going to be limited based off of your skin color. All of this bullshit. It's just all bullshit. It's all nonsense. Limited growing. This is why she's not. And of course, I already know that the narrative is going to be, well, I don't need to grow anymore. I'm cool with it. That's cool. I feel you. I feel you. Limited perspective. And usually when somebody thinks differently from them, they're by default, you're a coon because of your proximity to whiteness is going to be limited based off of your skin color. All of this bullshit. It's just all bullshit.
Your proximity to whiteness will be limited as a black person. What she said is a fact. There's no denying that. It's a fact 100%. As a Sambo, your proximity to whiteness will be limited because white people understand the fact that you're black, but they will use you for what they could use you for. Study the history of this country. You could see it. History repeats itself. What did white people do with the N-word lovers? I mean, they gave them some privilege, right? But they still let them know you're still not white. We'll treat you better than the rest of the Negroes, but you're still not white. You're still not one of us. But we'll treat you better than the rest of the Negroes. We'll treat you better than the rest of the Negroes as long as you keep these tap shoes on, as long as you keep tap dancing for butter biscuits. Yeah, we'll treat you better than the rest of the Negroes, but you can never be one of us, buddy. Study the history of this country. It proves everything that I'm saying.
It's all nonsense. So I understand now why she may be under fire. I'm sure different people got different reasons, but keep going, AD. All right, let me let her play. Let me rewind it. Let's get it.
I mean, that's true. People will say that to you, right? Because you're not a Democrat. You must be a Sambo. I mean, that's true in that regard, but that's small fries to a Big Mac, though. That's small fries to a Big Mac, though. You dig? You feel what I'm saying? Think about white people. White people who showed sympathy to blacks were called N-word lovers. Or let's just say white people who felt like, okay, that's wrong. We shouldn't treat human beings like that. You know what racist white people called them? N-word lovers. You're showing sympathy to the Negroes. They couldn't stand that. So white people who thought differently were called names as well. If you didn't agree that black people should be treated like dogs and animals as a white person, they called you a what? An N-word lover. If you was a white person that wanted to see blacks treated like human beings, you was called the N-word, an N-word lover by other white people. But yes, that happens. If you're not a Democrat, some black people will call you a Sambo. Oh man, you must be a Sambo. You over there voting for that white man. You a Republican. Yeah, but those are just words. Do you know what happened to the N-word lover? See, black people, we just call people names. Oh, you a Sambo. They're just going to call you a name. A lot of those so-called N-word lovers, they got unalive. White people didn't just call them names. They got dealt with for having sympathy for black folks. Black people call black people names for not thinking like the majority of black people. But white people, on the other hand, if you was considered an N-word lover, you got met with violence.
Why it's not as high in our community is because just by skin color alone, there's only, even if you the biggest of coons, there's only a certain amount of proximity to whiteness that you can have purely based off what you look like. And you can have that proximity to white people starter kit if you want to. You can be the black man married to a white woman and conservative politics and talking about them people referring to.
Now, you notice she said you're going to be a black man married to a white woman, but she never talked about a black woman being married to a white man. So that's why I can't rock with JEMELE Hill either, because she's full of it, just like Tampon is full of it. So the black woman is married to a white man, she ain't considered a sellout, but a black man with a white wife, he's considered a sellout. Get it? Now let's go back in history. The white man always had access to the black woman. It's never been illegal for that white man to sleep around with that black woman. But guess what? It was always illegal for that black man to sleep around with that white woman. Why? Because the white man feared that his woman would gravitate to black men, so much to the point to where the white man made it illegal.
Your own people, you could do all of that and you will never be them.
I don't know if they're all familiar, but let me educate y'all a little bit. Race does not matter anymore. It is only a
race does not matter anymore. Man, listen, man, this is what I'm saying. I'm so fed up with our people. Y'all listen to this Sambo because of money. Next thing you know, they're going to put a rainbow community member and they're going to promote this individual to us. And you guys are going to say, well, he has money, so we'll listen. He said that race doesn't matter. If race doesn't matter, then if race doesn't matter, we should have 10 black presidents. For every election that comes up, we should have 10 black presidents. That's not going to happen. Why? Because race matters. And I don't want to hear, well, the blacks that's running for office ain't qualified. Bullshit. If race doesn't matter, that means the next 5 presidents need to be black. If race don't matter, black people need to be running the White House. The majority of the White House should be black if race doesn't matter. And I don't want to hear, well, blacks are not competent enough to run the White House. That's BS. That is propaganda coming back from slavery, stemming from slavery. If race doesn't matter, then the majority of the White House should be black. The next 5 presidents should be black if race doesn't matter anymore. Shame on y'all black people for listening to this clown. All you need is money for black people to listen to you. You can say the dumbest crap ever. If you got money, they still gonna listen to you. This idiot fixed his mouth to say race don't even matter no more.
There's only a certain amount of proximity to whiteness that you can have purely based off what you look like. And you can have that proximity to white people starter kit if you want to. You can be
right. You're right. If race didn't matter, we would have got reparations by now. They gave it to everybody else, but didn't give it to us. But this bozo said race don't even matters no more. If you a black person listening to this idiot, I don't want nothing to do with you because you're part of the problem. You're telling these Sambos they can sell out the black community, say dumb things, and the black community still gonna support them. That's the message that you're sending. I can disrespect black people, cape for white folks, and still get black people to support me. As long as I got money, they still gonna support me. No matter if I say the most ridiculous things, black people still gonna support me. I blame you foundational black Americans who still listen to Sambos like this. Race doesn't matter. If race don't matter, tell them to cut the check. Give us the reparations. Give us the money that we work for. We are the foundation of this nation. We built this country, blood, sweat, and tears. If race don't matter, tell white folks to cut the check and give us our damn reparations. If race don't matter, then the majority of the White House should be black. If race don't matter, the next 5 presidents need to be black. If race don't matter.
Like the
bullshit. It's just all bullshit. It's all nonsense.
Yeah.
So I understand now why she may be under fire. I'm sure different people got different reasons, but keep going, AD.
Yeah.
All right, let me let her play. Let me rewind it. Let's get it.
Why it's not as high in our community is because just by skin color alone, there's only, even if you the biggest of coons, there's only a certain amount of proximity to whiteness that you can have purely based off what you look like. And you can have that proximity to white people starter kit if you want to. You can be the black man married to a white woman and conservative politics and talking about them people referring to your own people. You can do all of that and you will never be them.
I don't know if they're all familiar, but let me educate y'all a little bit. Race does not matter anymore. It is only race does not matter anymore. Race does not matter anymore. It is only race does not matter anymore. It is only race does not matter anymore. It is only a distraction. Did y'all know that there are a ton of white people out there that are poor?
And if you're poor as a white person, you're a failure. You're not applying yourself. There's no excuse for a white person to be poor. When the majority of these companies and corporations are ran and owned by who? White people. So if you are white and you are broke and struggling, you're not applying yourself. You're doing something wrong. I don't feel sympathy for whites that's living in poverty. They're not taking advantage of their white skin.
Middle class and struggling. Do you know that the majority of people that voted for Donald Trump are not rich?
So what? We know that. The majority of people in this country, period, are not rich. We understand that. But it's always been harder for a black person to get rich compared to a white person. Can we admit that, Tampon? It used to be illegal for us to read. It used to be illegal for us to live in certain communities. It used to be illegal for us to get an education at a certain school. So they put restrictions on everything that we can do. White people got a 400-year head start in this country to build wealth, to get rich, to achieve success. White folks had a 400-year head start. That's like, see, let me show you what Tampon is saying. Make sure you guys hit the like button. I'm going to show you how dumb he is. That's like saying we're running a race, right? And you got to go across the whole, you got to run the track 4 times. Now that we're on the 4th lap, you done already cheated for 3 laps and you got a head start. You got a 3-lap head start. Now all of a sudden you say, okay, it's even now. There's no need to complain. Racism don't exist. The playing field is equal. No, it's not. Or let me give you another example. That's like black people and white people are playing a basketball game, right? And you got 4 quarters, right? You got 4 quarters in a basketball game. We get to the 4th quarter. Now for 3 quarters straight, you don't give black people none of the points they score. We don't get none of the points we score for 3 quarters. Now all of a sudden, now in the 4th quarter, you're telling me my points count. But white people already got 200 points on the scoreboard. We got 0. So we start off in the 4th quarter. They got 300 points. We got 0. But you're telling me the playing field is equal when you done already had a 3-quarter head start. We go to the 4th quarter. I got 0 points. You got 200 points. But now you want to fix your mouth and say, well, everything is equal now. If you shoot a basket, we're going to count your points. But for 3 quarters, none of the points I scored ever counted. For 3 quarters, none of my points ever mattered. I don't get none of the points that I scored for 3 quarters. We get into the 4th quarter. You are now telling me we're on an equal playing field. White's got 200 points on the scoreboard. We start in the 4th quarter with 0. That's exactly what you're saying. So no, homie, the playing field is not equal. White folks had a 400-year head start to accumulate wealth, to get rich, to achieve success. Don't sit up here and tell me somehow the playing field is equal. You sound dumb.
They don't have a lot of resources. They want to get back to smaller government.
If white people are poor, that's because they're not applying themselves. There's no excuse for white folks. There is no excuse for white folks to be living in poverty. None.
I don't know if they're all familiar, but let me educate y'all a little bit. Race does not matter anymore. It is only a distraction. Did y'all know that there are a ton of white people out there that are poor and middle class and struggling? Do you know that the majority of people that voted for Donald Trump are not rich? They don't have a lot of resources. They want to get back to smaller government, less taxes, more opportunity, and they want manufacturing to come back to the United States of America. They don't want illegal migrants to take over the jobs. They want the culture of what we have going on here.
Shout out to Jazz. I see Jazz in the comments. Shout out to you, Jazz. What's good with you, girl? What you over there doing? Yeah.
Truly stand based off of American values. Why do they keep thinking that this proximity to whiteness? All you got to do is go and look at the statistics. All you got to do is look at the census. All you got to do.
White people got 200 points going into the 4th quarter. We go into the 4th quarter as black people with 0 points. Now all of a sudden you're telling us the playing field is equal. Listen, homie, there's 20 minutes. We got 20 minutes left in the game at the 4th quarter. We got 0. White people got 200 points. We scored a lot of points in the 1st quarter, the 2nd quarter, and the 3rd quarter, but it don't count. We still going to the 4th quarter with 0. White's going to the 4th quarter with 400. It's 20 minutes left in the game, and you're telling us that the playing field is now equal. Man, if that ain't retarded, I don't know what is.
Let's look at the earnings. They're not at the top of the total. What is this obsession? What is this true obsession with white people so much to where y'all are using them as the basis or the litmus for where you judge yourself? Why are black?
No, we're not doing that. White people make videos every day about black fatigue. Why are white people so obsessed with us? Why white people felt the need to burn our communities down when we wasn't bothering them. Black folks and listen, think about Black Wall Street, Elaine, Arkansas, Ocoee, Florida, Wilmington, North Carolina. Those black people wasn't bothering white folks. They was building their communities and minding their business. White people were so obsessed with black people and so jealous that they burned those communities down. And black people built those communities with no reparations and no handouts from the government. Yet the white man destroyed it, and it was sanctioned by the government. Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street was destroyed and sanctioned by the government. Black folks under attack by white supremacists. The attack on Black Wall Street was sanctioned by the damn government. Please believe that. Those black people went to work every day and minded their business. They wasn't bothering white folks. But white people still felt the need to burn those communities, to destroy those communities. And they did it out of hatred. They did it out of what? Jealousy. So if anything, white folks have been obsessed with us. During those times, the black community and the white community was segregated. Black people said, cool, we'll build our own stores, we'll build our community. Black folks wasn't bothering nobody. But white people still felt the need to go to a black community where they didn't have to live and sabotage their shit and burn their communities. Why? Because whites were so obsessed and jealous of whites feared our progress. They feared our progress so much to where they had to burn these communities. They did it out of hatred and pure jealousy. And it was sanctioned by the government. That's what you call white supremacy, systemic racism. None of those white people got brought to justice for what they did to those black communities. The government gave the approval. The government sanctioned it. So if you want to talk about somebody being obsessed, it is the white community obsessed with us, not the other way around. Black people, we might speak on what we experience dealing with white people, but no, we're not obsessed with white people at all. In reality, it's the other way around, you damn clown.
Black people so focused on white people that there are a ton of white people out there that are poor and middle class and struggling. Do you know that
in the 1920s, black people wasn't bothering nobody. They wasn't bothering white people. They wasn't doing anything to white people. They was minding their business, building their communities. White supremacists and mobs of white people destroyed those communities. They did it out of hatred and jealousy. So you ask white people, so listen, this is what I'm telling you. When white people tell you the only reason they hate black people is because of ghetto behavior, no, you hated blacks way before ghetto culture ever existed in the black community. There was no such thing as ghetto and thug culture in the 1920s, but yet and still, white folks still hated black folks to the 10th power. To the 10th power. Let me put it like that. You could argue that white people were whites were way more racist in the 1920s and 30s than they are today, because you had laws. The law gave white people the okay to harm us, and none of them got brought to justice. So they can erase you, delete you, and never get brought to justice. That's exactly what was going on in the 1920s and 30s. And guess what? They can't say we hate black people because they're ghetto and they're criminals. Those blacks in the 1920s and 30s, they were not thugs. They were not criminals. Those black people went to church. They went to work. They minded their business. They lived in their own communities. They didn't bother white people. But yet and still, white people still hated black people to the 10th power, and white folks black people wasn't bothering them. There was no such thing as thug and ghetto culture. So what was white people's excuse for hating you back then? They hated you simply for being black. Now let me tell you what white people say today. Well, we don't like black people. You hated black people way before thug culture ever existed. You hated black people way before hip hop ever existed. You hated the black community before ghetto and thug culture ever existed. If you don't believe me, go back to the 1920s. That's a prime example. So you scratch your head. Well, what was white people's excuse for hating blacks in the 20s? Those black people were hard workers. They went to church. They didn't bother nobody. They stayed in their own communities. But yet and still, black people were still getting hung. Our communities still got burned down. Our communities got sabotaged. And it was sanctioned by who? The government. So if you study the history of this country, it proves that white people had a strong hatred for black people just for being black and for no other reason. Not because we did anything to them, not because we was bothering them.
The majority of people that voted for Donald Trump are not rich. They don't have a lot of resources. They want to get back to smaller government, less taxes, more opportunity, and they want manufacturing to come back to the United States of America. They don't want illegal migrants to take over the job.
Listen, when black people wore suits every day and went to church and stayed in their own communities and didn't bother nobody, white people hated you more back then. They hated you more back then than they do now. So don't give me that excuse about no ghetto thug culture. White folks hated you way before that ever existed in the black community. Ghetto and thug culture, gang culture, ghetto and ratchet culture. Those black folks in the 1920s wore suits and went to church. They were hard workers, minded their business, built their own communities. They didn't bother nobody. But yet and still, white people had a whole lot of hatred for those black folks who just minded their business, that wasn't bothering nobody, that stayed in their own communities. Now imagine that.
They want the culture of what we have going on here to truly stand based off of American values. Why do they keep thinking that this proximity to whiteness, all you got to do is go and look at the statistics. All you got to do is look at the census. All you got to do is look at the earnings. They're not at the top of the totem pole. What is this obsession? What is this true obsession with white people so much to where y'all are using them as the basis or the litmus for where you judge yourself? Why are black people so focused on white people when white people are struggling just as much, if not more, than black people? What is this? Why do y'all worship? Democrats and liberals love trying to figure out what it is that they can compare themselves to white people and trying to see if you're white adjacent.
Now you see why I can't stand black people who watch this dude and support him. You won't understand why. If you support tampon as a foundational black American, you are enemy to the FBA community. He's caping for white folks and making nothing but excuses for them while demonizing the black community, telling us that we're obsessed with white people when in reality it's the other way around. Look at all these videos made by white people talking about black fatigue and ghetto culture, when the first thugs and criminals in America were white men. The first thugs and drive-by shooters were white men. Gang culture started with white men. The first street gangs of America were white Europeans. I started this gangster-ish, and it's the mother-loving thanks I get. I started this gangster-ish, and it's the mother-loving thanks I get. Yeah, true story. Yes, true story. The first street gangs and thugs in this country were white men. The first drive-by shooters were white men. Who created racism and hatred in America? White men. Who created separation and division in this country? White men. But this idiot, this Sambo, spent the whole time in his video caping for them white folks, but telling you black people you're ignorant and you're obsessed with white people. I can't stand black people who watch this and get his sucker ass dude. I can't stand you black folks who support this dude, because you guys are the enemy. You're a major problem. You're nothing. You're an enemy to the progress of black people if you support a Sambo like this. This dude put on his tap shoes, his curly wig, and his red nose with his two left shoes. And he's bug dancing for the MAGA white community while disrespecting black folks to the 10th power, telling you that you're ignorant, you're a professional victim, and you're obsessed with white people somehow. That's what this idiot fixed his mouth to tell you in this whole video.
I don't know what that is, bro. I don't. I truly don't know what that is. Why is that a thing for y'all? Bro, it's 2026. It's 2026. Grow the fuck up. Y'all still using the word coon? You know what the funniest part about it is? You don't hear the word coon from white people. You only hear it from black people saying it to the black people.
Because that's what they are. You don't need to hear it from white people. They done already said it enough. They've been saying it for hundreds of years. You idiot. They don't need to say it no more. Tampon is a COON. A raccoon. Let me reword that. Tampon is a raccoon. By definition, that's exactly what you are. But you get mad when a black person call you that. But you got the right to call black people ghetto, ignorant, all these other names. It's cool for you to call black people names, but when somebody call you a name, you can't stand it. All of a sudden, the shoe don't fit.
They can compare themselves to white people and try to see if you're white adjacent. I don't know what that is, bro. I don't. I truly don't know what that is. Why is that a thing for y'all? Bro, it's 2026. It's 2026. Grow the fuck up. Y'all still using the word coon? You know what the funniest part about it is? You don't hear the word coon from white people. You only hear it from black people saying it to the black people. You don't hear it from white people. I've never, ever in my life been called a coon from a white person online or in person.
They say it behind your back, you dummy. They call you the N-word and many names behind your back. White people don't want to be labeled a racist, so they keep it to themselves. They talk like that amongst themselves. But please believe they're calling you names once you leave the room. Tampon, one of those black dudes that think white people like him, but he don't realize the names that they call him when he's not in the room. He knows that white people call him names behind his back, but he ignores that and pretend like that's not what's going on. Like that's not happening. Let me ignore what white people do. Let me ignore how white people truly feel and point the finger at blacks and tell black people they're ignorant and tell black people that they're professional victims and tell black people this and a whole lot of that. Let me tell you something, Tampon. If the shoe fits, then you got to wear it. You are a raccoon. You are a Sambo. By definition, that's exactly what you are. That is a perfect fit. That is tailor-made for you. You are a raccoon. You a certified Sambo. It'd be one thing if he wasn't. But judging by his character, that's exactly what he is.
Y'all still using the word coon? You know what the funniest part about it is? You don't hear the word coon from white people. You only hear it from black people saying it to the black people.
Listen, to all you black people who listen to this dude, you guys are a disgrace. Well, he got money, so I'll listen to him. There's a bunch of rainbow community members with money. Does it mean you should listen? Does that mean you should listen to them? There's a lot of men with money that promotes feminine behavior to other men, who promotes rainbow activity to other men, but they got money. So I guess having money having money excuses that behavior. Tampon is a certified raccoon in Sambo, but I guess having money gives him a pass. That's a terrible message to send to you. What you're telling the youth is you can be a Sambo or a rainbow community member as long as you have money. We'll forgive you. We'll forgive you for all of your actions as long as you got money. You can put on a MAGA hat and tap dance with a white community while saying disparaging things about the black community. As long as you got money, we'll give it a pass. That's the message that we are sending as black people. To all you black people who support this Sambo, you're saying we forgive you, Tampon, because you got money. As long as you got money, you can say whatever you want. You can say whatever you want to say to the black community. You can disrespect us every chance you get. As long as you have money, we'll forgive you. That's the message that we're sending to these Sambos. So they double down on their Samboism. They double down on their Sambo behavior. You know why? Because they tell themselves, I can talk crazy about black people and they still gonna support me. I can still get black people to support me, and I'm gonna get white people to support me. So I'm gonna double down on my Sambo behavior because it's profitable. Tampon Daniels has made listen, this dude right here has made being a Sambo profitable. He's made being a rat, he's made raccoon behavior profitable.
You don't hear it from white people. I've never, ever in my life been called a coon from a white person, online or in person. Hundreds of times from black people. Hundreds of times from black people. If I'm going to get called out of my name, it's going to be by somebody that looks like me. If I'm going to be disrespected, it's going to be from somebody that looks like me. Shit. The internet ain't no different than real life. Remember when I was telling y'all when I first got on the internet and I talk about it, I said the people that carjacked me, the people that tried to take my life, they look like me. Guess who the people are that hate me the most? I hold white people accountable way more than I hold black people accountable. And guess who the people that are more focused on?
Whoa, he said he holds white people accountable more than black people. That is a bold-faced lie, man. Black people, we got to get on this helmet. Who believes that? This Sambo just sat up here and said he holds white people accountable way more than black people. Who's dumb enough to believe that? Do you guys honestly believe that Tampon holds white people accountable more than black people? Do you honestly believe that? Can you look at me with a straight face and say, yeah, that's true. He does hold white people accountable more than black folks. Can you look at me with a straight face and say that? No, you know what I'm saying? In reality, I hold white people accountable more than black people. No, you don't. No, the hell you don't. Corey Holcomb asked you, how come you don't ever hold a Caucasian male accountable? You know what Tampon said in response? I ain't even going to talk about that. I ain't even going to get into that. He just called black people ignorant. He said black people are this and black people are that. When Corey Holcomb asked him, well, what do you have to say about Caucasian males and their role in destroying this country and creating racism? What are your thoughts on that? You know what Tampon said in response? I ain't even finna get into that, Corey. No, I ain't even finna get into that, Corey. But you got all this negative stuff to say about black people, but when it was time to hold white men accountable, you said, no, Corey, I ain't even gonna talk about that, bro. I ain't finna talk about no white man, Corey. But then you got the nerve to say that you hold white people accountable more than blacks? That's a bold-faced lie. Bold-faced lie.
If I'm going to be disrespected, it's going to be from somebody that looks like me. Shit. The internet ain't no different than real life. Remember when I was telling y'all when I first got on the internet and I talk about it, I said the people that carjacked me, the people that tried to take my life, they look like me. Guess who the people are that
every time somebody tried to assassinate Donald Trump, it was a white man, not black men. Every time a government official or a president had a threat on their life, it was another white man that made that threat towards their life. Every time there was an attempt on Donald Trump's life, guess who did it? White men. It wasn't black people. Who unalived Charlie Kirk? It was a white man. It wasn't a black person. The biggest threat to a white man is what? Another white man. The biggest threat to the white race is what? Other white people. I don't care if you're a government official, a president, or whatever you do. If somebody tried to assassinate Donald Trump today, it's not going to be a black man, it's going to be a white man. If somebody tried to assassinate Vice President J.D. Vance, 10 times out of 10, it's going to be a white man, not a black person.
Hate me the most. Disrespected, it's going to be from somebody that looks like me. Shit. The internet ain't no different than real life. Remember when I was telling y'all when I first got on the internet and I talk about it, I said the people that carjacked me, the people that tried to take my life, they look like me. Guess who the people are that hate me the most? I hold white people accountable way more than I hold black people accountable. And guess who the people that are more focused on what they don't like about me is usually the people that look like they got that skin color. So miss me with this. How old is Jemele Hill? Let me see something. She 50, bro. You was born in 1975 and you still talking about this shit? You born in Detroit, Michigan. You went to Mumford too? She went to Mumford? She went right up the street. That's right down the street from Bobian, near Curtis, in between Curtis and 6 Mile. Fuck out of here, bro. This is crazy. I didn't even realize she was from Detroit. Went to Mumford, Michigan State. 50 years old, still talking the same old bullshit, bro. You 50 and you still talking this shit?
She's not wrong about everything she's saying. Now, she is a diehard Democrat, and I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a damn Republican. I ain't none of that. I'm an independent. That's what it is with me. But check it. She said some things that made sense when she said, by large, the Latino community will vote to get deported. They will vote to get sent up out of this country. That's exactly what they did in this past election. Latinos voted for mass deportation, but then they got the nerve to be marching and protesting in the streets when in reality you voted for this. How you gonna march and protest against something that you voted for? How you gonna march and protest against something that you voted for? The majority of the people in your community voted for mass deportations, but you get in the streets and march and protest against it? I mean, make it make sense. That's like black people voting for Kamala Harris, but then turn around and complain why we got all these damn illegals in our community, taking the jobs and taking up all the housing, receiving benefits for medical, receiving benefits to get dental. That's like black people voting for Kamala Harris, and then you turn around and complain about all these damn illegals that's in your community. You would look stupid. You would look crazy if you did that. The same way that the Latino community looks crazy, they voted for mass deportation. Now that Donald Trump is deporting their people, now they want to march and protest against the same thing that they voted for.
That's crazy. We literally grew up in the same hood. We are literally from the same hood. I was supposed to go to Mumford. Shout out to the Mumford Mustangs. The baby blue and maroon. I was supposed to go to Bobian, then I was supposed to go to Mumford. That's crazy. Y'all say I gotta have her on the show. I don't know if she would want to come on the show. I would love to have an intelligent conversation with her. I'll read.
All right, let me read out the cash apps, man. Shout out to Lions Dollars for blessing us with a cash app. Lions Dollars bless us with a 10. Tamika bless us with a 20. Tracy bless us with a 20. Al Ray T bless us with a 20. T-Fan 1 bless us with a 5. 92 Dolo blessed us with a damn 5. I appreciate my people. We live, Jack.
Reach out to her, see if she's talking about anything. That's crazy. That is insane, bro. That is insane. Wow. You know about Bobian?
Well, we're gonna wrap this one up, man. I got Angry Man next. In the next 15 minutes, man, I got a second show. We're gonna roast Angry Man. So instead of making this a 2-hour stream, well, I've been live for 1 hour and 30 minutes. So I'm gonna cut this one. I'm gonna cut this at the 1 hour and 30 minute mark. And then on the next show, we're getting ready to roast Angry Man, because Angry Man was over there caping for them damn Latinos. He's another individual. Like, when I see black people supporting this, that's the problem. You're supporting our enemies. Tampon is an enemy to the FBA community, 100%. He's a certified Sambo with 2 left shoes, with a curly wig and a red painted nose. For sure, for sure. Angry Man, the same thing. He's an enemy to the FBA community. He really is. There's no other way you can slice the pie. I got to call a spade a spade. I'll be back in 15 minutes, and I'm going to do a call show. Like on the next one, I'm going to drop the link and I'm going to bring some people up to speak on the second show. So we're going to be roasting Anger Man in another 15, 20 minutes. Make sure that you guys tap in to the next show. I will be live in another 15 minutes. Seriously. So I'm going to drop the link on the next show. The link will be in the description. The link will be in the chat. I will drop it. But we're going to break down some of Angry Man's talking points on how he disrespects foundational Black Americans while caping for Latinos. We're roasting Angry Man next. Tap in with us in another 15 minutes. I appreciate you all. I appreciate you all. Peace, love, and blessings. I'll be back in another 15. I'm gone.